Finn Balor. Now, of course, he was backstage in the kickoff. We mentioned this before, that we'd come to this moment, that the original club, the only, they came and said that if Finn Balor needed help, all they need to do is say 2 sweets. And they were like, look, he wants to do it because he's going to need the help. And of course, Finn didn't do it. He came out dressed in the pure white, good versus evil, and was absolutely petrified with the new entrance of Bray Wyatt. Now, we had the Firefly Funhouse kind of blur out a little bit. We got the darkness in the arena like we've been getting on Raw and SmackDown recently. The Tron came up with those sort of blood kind of style letters, let him in. We got the music come out, and it was a remix of his old song. It was a lot darker. And the song was darker before, but this was a lot rockier, a lot heavier, dirtier kind of. It was really kind of like horror movie-esque kind of theme tune, and I absolutely loved it. Come out with, like, instead of the lantern, it was like almost like Bray Wyatt's old head with like a light in it. It was I don't know, the whole thing just felt really dark, disturbed, and I don't know. The show was meant to be TV-14. I feel that it was just solely for Bray Wyatt alone and that entrance, because he was just, I don't know, a bit of him, just for me, just dark, twisted, and it worked. Even before he went into the ring, it was almost like he was asking himself between the two characters, do I keep the mask on or not? You see him shake his head like that, no. And he goes inside the ring and keeps the mask on. The lights come on. He's still got the jacket on, those stripy, trousers on, the mask on, ready for the match. And the crowd just went mad. They loved it. Absolutely loved it. I did. I was on the edge of my seat. Jay, I need to know how you feel about this.
It was incredible. It was, for him to recreate his old character but still have nods to his previous character as Bray Wyatt. He's coming out now, he's named as the Fiend. It's not Bray Wyatt, it's just very clever. I think they've really struck gold with this, but it's about how they continue it.
Yeah, massively. I mean, the match itself was almost done to perfection as well. Finn Balor looked frightened. I mean, how often do we see? He takes on all challengers, Finn Balor. He's one of the good guys. But in this instance, he was not. He was someone that was almost, shall we say, politely bricking it from the opening bell. And he didn't last very long. The match was about 3 minutes long. The only nitpick, Finn did get a small bit of offense in, but it didn't last very long, probably about 30 seconds. I do feel it was 30 seconds too long. I would have had a complete whitewash if it was me, but I'm massively nitpicking. I know that I am actually being very harsh on it. The match was done to perfection. The only other thing I didn't like was the twist of the neck that was done as well. I'm not sure I know that this isn't really meant to be PG when it comes to Bray Wyatt. I'm sure a lot of kids probably won't be watching the Bray Wyatt segments, but I don't like the idea of, kids sometimes do have that ability of copying stuff, and I don't, they shouldn't copy anything they see, but this is definitely saying that would be a lot more fatal, or could be a lot more fatal. So that part I'm not such a fan of either, but everything else with it, absolutely incredible, 10 out of 10. And like you say, it's where it goes next with it. And where would you like to see it go next?
Well, I think with regards to who he targets, I think this will be a line under the Finn Balor. I don't see them going back down the road of doing the Demon versus the Fiend, because at some point, if they keep following that through, at some point Finn's got to win, and I don't think we should take Bray or the Fiend out of a winning streak. I wouldn't mind if they kept him off of weekly TV. I think as much as I loved seeing him in that match, I wouldn't mind if they keep doing the skits where he's, the Firefly Funhouse and sketches like that, and then have him build towards a match, and then he's mainly appearing at pay-per-views, because I think it's almost Undertaker-esque from back in the day. Like, it's a whole moment in itself. Just the entrance is epic, Everything about it is like a movie. Do you know what I mean? It's like the big entrance, the big beginning opening, and then the match itself, and then the ending as well. The outro is just as good as the intro. What will be interesting is this battle that he seems to be having with himself. We saw in the ring a few times where he wanted to hit Sister Abigail, and he was like, no, and then he didn't hit it. And a couple of moments where he was like, looking at his hands, the trying to work out what he's doing. I think that's where this is going to lead. Do you know, it reminds me of, and I thought this a few weeks ago, reminds me very much of the Abyss in TNA and Impact when he was fighting his own demons, and then you had his brother. What was his name?
It's Joseph Park.
Joseph Park, which obviously turned out to be Abyss. It reminds me very much of that, and he's involved now in WWE, isn't he? I think he's involved with the writing, so I wouldn't be surprised if he had any involvement in where they're going with Bray Wyatt.
Would be very interesting. It's a very good point you make there, because he's part of the creative process. I'm not sure if it's on NXT or the main roster, but either way, I'm sure ideas can be passed around. So I do think so. There's definitely a strong option that could be happening. And I love the idea of what you've brought up there with Bray almost conflicting with himself, because so far it feels like, I mean, we've not had it explained. It's my only problem with Bray so far, as well, as we've not had a lot of it explained, but it feels like Finn Balor was the failed rivalry on WWE programming that ruined Bray Wyatt to go to where he was to begin with, where he needed to repackage himself. That's what it felt like. He went for Mick Foley because he wanted the mandible claw, a new devastating finishing move going on. It was a passing of the torch. Perfectly fine with that. Kurt Angle was the GM at the time when everything went wrong for Bray Wyatt. So that's my explanations in my head of what is going on. What I don't know, though, is officially why it is. That's what I'm assuming it's all to do with. But if it is to do with it, could you see an idea with your idea, which I personally love, is that eventually the Fiend takes over the Firefly Funhouse permanently? There is no cartoon character. There is no puppets. It's all the Fiend. The Fiend is almost wins the battle of the alter egos.
Potentially. It could be what you're referring to, like a revenge mission, taking out the people that cost him in the past. However, how many more people are there for him to take out? Randy Orton potentially at one point. Obviously, he had the feud with Randy, burned down the his compound or whatever it was. There's people. Could he target old members of the Wyatt family? Could he blame them for it? There's multiple options because he has had that past. So there's a lot. Daniel Bryan could be one person at one point. If you remember the storyline that they had when Bryan joined them and turned on him, there's a lot of good options really.
Certainly, it's unlimited potential with this angle.
They've just got to make sure they don't pull the plug on him too soon. I don't want to see him losing. He doesn't need to have a title. I think you mentioned it on a previous show. It might have been on your Ask Steve show. He doesn't need to hold a title. The Undertaker, I think, went 5 or 6 years, I think, before he held a title in WWE or WWF at the time. So you can still have that impact and that kind of pedestal without holding a title, and I think the Fiend or Bray or whatever we're going to refer him as doesn't need that.
No, Bray definitely does not need a championship, and I think it would be harmful to give him one so quickly.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't be surprised if he gets thrown into it. You know what WWE can be like. But I agree with you. He's an attraction. He's not doesn't need to be he's almost too menacing as well to be the actual face of the company. So it's a good thing to have him as the attraction of, I need to go and watch WWE, and I need to go and watch that pay-per-view because the Fiend is on it. Very well, get to see that entrance, that really cool entrance, and what's he going to do to this guy? Why is he after this guy? I mean, you mentioned The Undertaker, Crown Jewel. There's a match set made for you right there. Revenge for that WrestleMania loss that Bray should have won. Bray should have been the guy that should have ended the streak, not Brock Lesnar. And I mean, that could be another person that he could target for and get the revenge on. Maybe the match wouldn't be as good, but at the same time, if the Fiend could squash the Undertaker in 4 minutes, that'd say a lot, wouldn't it? Even at this stage.
The other thing I would say, just to add to my point about him not being on weekly shows every week as in person, is when you think how long that entrance took, and don't get me wrong, it was a one-off. Well, I say a one-off. It was the first time he's come out with a full entrance. It was quite a lengthy entrance, with the lights fading out and the first entrance on the Titantron, and then he's always had that slow entrance anyway with the lantern even before, but this one felt a lot more of a Undertaker-esque, as I'll keep referring back to it, the Undertaker with the long walk to the ring. So I think if you can save that, even if you've done it once in every 4 TV shows, depending on what brand he's going to be, and I think his character could switch as well. I don't see a problem with him being one that does switch. He doesn't need to be on Raw and SmackDown every week. But if he's in a program with someone on either brand, I think that's good. I don't think he needs to be Raw's character or SmackDown's. I think with the way they're booking him, he can flip.
I like it. Yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm definitely cool with it. Whatever they decide to do with him right now, as I say, take my money. I'm happy to watch it. I'm invested.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the sum it up, they've got a mega star in their hands here, and if they screw this up, I don't think they should be allowed to have creative anymore. They should allow superstars to do absolutely everything. This feels like it cannot be messed up. So, let's hope they don't, because they've got some action on their hands here.